Have you ever walked across a street only to have a car horn jolt you back to reality, realizing you hadn't even looked? Or maybe you've missed a step on a familiar staircase. It's a frightening, yet common experience. We often wonder, how could I have missed something so obvious, so dangerous? The answer isn't that we're careless. The answer lies deep within the intricate and sometimes flawed wiring of the human brain. Our brain is a masterpiece of evolution, designed for survival. But the world it evolved in is vastly different from the one we inhabit today. To understand why we miss obvious dangers, we first need to look at the brain's most critical resource: attention. Attention is not an infinite wellspring. Think of it as a spotlight in a vast dark room. It can only illuminate one small area at a time. Everything outside that beam remains in the shadows. This is a concept neuroscientists call attentional blindness. When our focus is intensely directed at one task, like texting while walking, our brain literally does not process other visual information, even if it's a car speeding towards us. It's not that we see it and forget it. For all intents and purposes, we never saw it at all. This selective filtering is managed by a network of brain regions, including the prefrontal cortex and the parietal lobe. They act as gatekeepers, deciding what sensory information is important enough to reach our conscious awareness. In a laboratory setting, this is easy to demonstrate. When subjects are asked to count basketball passes in a video, a surprising number of them completely fail to notice a person in a gorilla suit walking through the middle of the screen. The gorilla is obvious, but their attentional spotlight is pointed elsewhere. The brain, to conserve energy, has decided the gorilla is irrelevant to the task at hand. Compounding this is another phenomenon: change blindness. Our brain assumes the world is a stable place. It doesn't continuously rescan every detail of our environment. Instead, it creates a mental model and only updates it when something significant and expected changes. This is why we might not notice a slow gas leak, a gradually fraying cable, or even a person who was standing behind us suddenly disappearing. Unless the change is abrupt and captures our attention, our brain smooths over the inconsistency, maintaining a stable, but sometimes dangerously inaccurate, picture of reality. Then there's the powerful and often misleading influence of familiarity. When we perform a routine task, like driving the same route to work every day, our brain switches to autopilot. This process, known as habituation, is incredibly efficient. It frees up our conscious mind to think about other things: our to-do list, a conversation we had, our plans for the evening. The basal ganglia, a region deep inside the brain, takes over these well-practiced routines. The problem is, this autopilot mode is not very good at handling the unexpected. A deer jumping onto the road, a cyclist swerving into our lane. These novel events require the prefrontal cortex to slam on the brakes and take back control. But there's a delay, a fraction of a second, where our brain is still running the old familiar program. In that fraction of a second, disaster can strike. Our perception of risk is also not as rational as we'd like to believe. The amygdala, our brain's fear center, is highly attuned to immediate, visceral threats, the things that would have been dangerous to our ancestors, like a snake or a predator. It's less equipped to handle modern, abstract dangers. The statistical probability of a car crash is a number. The immediate gratification of checking a notification on our phone is a dopamine hit. In the moment, our brain's ancient reward system often overpowers our modern, logical understanding of risk. This is why we see people making choices that are, on paper, incredibly risky. They aren't ignoring the danger. Their brain is simply weighing the immediate reward more heavily than the abstract future possibility of harm. We are also susceptible to a wide range of cognitive biases that warp our judgment. One of the most dangerous is the optimism bias, the inherent belief that we are less likely to experience a negative event than others. We hear about accidents, but we subconsciously think, that won't happen to me. This isn't arrogance. It's a built-in psychological defense mechanism that allows us to get out of bed in the morning without being paralyzed by fear. But it can lead to complacency. We might skip wearing a helmet, neglect a safety checklist, or stand too close to a cliff edge. all because our brain is telling us a comforting lie. You'll be fine. Another is the herd mentality. When we see others behaving in a certain way, our brains often interpret that as a signal of safety. If no one else is evacuating a building during a fire alarm, we might hesitate, assuming it's a false alarm. This social proof is a powerful shortcut for decision making. Following the group was a good survival strategy for our ancestors. In the modern world, it can mean we outsource our safety assessment to a crowd that might be just as oblivious as we are. The brain sees the calm behavior of others and downgrades its own internal threat level, creating a false sense of security. So how does this all come together in a real-world scenario? Imagine a construction worker on a busy site. His attention is focused on a complex task. The constant noise of machinery has become familiar, so his brain has habituated and tunes it out. He sees his colleagues working without certain safety gear and feels a sense of normalcy, social proof. He holds a slight optimism bias, feeling that he's experienced and an accident is unlikely. All these factors, attentional blindness, habituation, cognitive bias, stack up. A crane swinging a heavy load into his path becomes just another piece of background information, filtered out by a brain that is trying to be efficient. It's not a single failure, but a cascade of perfectly normal, yet ultimately dangerous, cognitive shortcuts. This isn't a story about the brain's failures, it's a story about its design limitations in a world it wasn't built for. Our brains evolved for survival on the savannah, not for navigating traffic, operating heavy machinery, or assessing digital age risks. The systems that kept us safe from predators are the same systems that now make us vulnerable to a different class of dangers. Understanding these mechanisms is the first step toward mitigating them. It's not about trying to rewire our brains, which is impossible. It's about designing our world and our habits to account for these blind spots. It's why checklists are so critical in aviation and surgery. They force the prefrontal cortex to engage and override autopilot. It's why effective safety warnings use bright, flashing lights and loud, novel sounds. They are designed to break through our attentional filters. It's why training and practice are so important. They help build new, safer routines for the basal ganglia to run on autopilot. By acknowledging the inherent limits of our attention and the powerful pull of our cognitive biases, we can develop a more humble and realistic approach to safety. The danger isn't always out there. Sometimes the biggest vulnerability lies in the silent, efficient, and beautifully flawed processes happening inside our own heads. Recognizing that is the first and most crucial step to staying safe in an obviously dangerous world. Thanks for watching. If you found this exploration of the human brain fascinating, consider subscribing for more deep dives into science and psychology. Stay curious and stay aware.